Good morning. Today I want to talk about the new American crisis. The new American crisis is a 70-year silent war against Americans. And the new era of war is digital, it's electronical. It is electronic harassment, V2K, MK Ultra, satellite weapons, drones, electronic warfare, neighborhood gang stalking. Today I want to talk about an important thing. I want to talk about the vicious attacks against animals, okay, using electronic harassment. I moved into a new neighborhood here in New Braunfels, Texas. And children are given iPads in elementary school. They're given iPads and they open up the iPad and all they learn how to do is just kind of move around and play video games and everything else. So there's kind of a teaching on how to use electronic warfare. Okay. The kids are given iPads, but they learn how to manipulate the iPad and how to manipulate that warfare. And they're taught electronic warfare at a young age. Okay. This story is about my dog and a smart Asian kid in my neighborhood who is taught how to use electronic warfare. Okay. Um, Asian kids are very smart. They are very smart children and very smart in computers. And so these kids are taught at a young age how to manipulate the computer, how to manipulate. And so when you're in a neighborhood and you have a dog, the Asian kid practices warfare on how to isolate the animal, how to get them to move into different rooms in the house. It's a fun game, but animals are attacked with electronic warfare and manipulated throughout the house. Okay, instead of attacking a human being, they attack an animal. They manipulate the animal inside that household using electronic warfare, using electronic devices to manipulate the dog, moving the dog in and out of the house, isolating them in different areas, and they're learning the pattern how to teach that. Okay, um, animals are being attacked. Okay, whether we like it or not. And like I said, this story is about the neighborhood kids who are using the warfare to isolate animals as a beginner's tactic on teaching the kids how to use electronic warfare. Okay, and as you get older, you become very accurate and very knowledgeable on how to deploy this warfare against Americans or against other citizens. Okay, animals are used to manipulate these tactics, electronic warfare. Okay. And you can believe me or not believe me, but I know for certain what is going on in my neighborhood over here at Moon Hill Road in New Braunfels, Texas. Okay. Electronic warfare is on the rise. It's on the rise. It's been on the rise for over since 9/11. Okay. And we're teaching kids how to use iPads in schools and they're becoming good. They're becoming accurate. Okay. And so you give a kid the project, you induct a child into the warfare, electronic warfare, and they know how to manipulate the iPads and electronic devices and how to isolate the dogs and different animals throughout the house and how to isolate them into different rooms, move them in and out of rooms where you don't want them at. Okay. Um, my dog used to sleep on my bed. Okay. But it won't sleep on my bed because it's being isolated into different rooms. The kid grabs the dog, attacks the dog moves off the bed, chases the dog into the room or into a closet where they isolate him. And it becomes like a cat and mouse game, or like a maze for the kid to move the dog in and out of the house. And you can believe me, you can believe me, you don't believe me, okay? But I know for certain animals are attacked, especially dogs, okay? And I'm going to show you here a couple of stories. Um, the rise the rise of killer whales in SeaWorld parks are becoming vicious, more vicious than any other animal in the world. But you have to realize the psychological warfare in this game, okay? What the dangerous animal, is striving for, how to protect themselves from intruders who are trying to attack them. Killer whales are trained to be um, tamed animals inside of an aquarium, inside of an aquarium, and inside of a tank. There are fish that swim around in circles inside of a 12 by 12 fish tank that swims around. That's all it knows how to do. It stays afloat, comes back down, eats, goes back, and it swims around. You're stuck in this big old bowl, okay? So what happens to a killer whale who is tamed and trained to be obedient, and it has no escape inside of an aquarium that's huge, inside this huge SeaWorld amusement park? What happens to a killer whale when it's attacked by satellite weapons? Where does it go? How does it react? Who does it go? Who does it attack? Does it attack someone close by? How does it react to the vicious electronic warfare that's deployed against that killer whale? Okay. There have been several attacks being reported at SeaWorld where the killer whale, where they knew the killer whale was acting out in behavior, okay, was acting out of behavior and kind of reacted at a world premiere event where it was supposed to be a very good event. Well, the killer whale wind up killing the trainer. If you were in a fish tank and the electronic harassment was attacking you with a satellite, attacking your liver, attacking your heart as a killer whale, who are you going to reach out to attack that's close by you? And of course, they lash out at the trainer because they think that trainer is viciously attacking him. As time goes on, that's what happened to the killer whale. It viciously reacted to the trainer and killed the trainer. It took a big bite out of her arm and out of her body, killing her, drowning her in a aquarium inside of SeaWorld. Vicious attack. Okay. Animals do lash out. Okay. They may be tamed, but throughout the period, it showed where the killer whale had lashed out and finally killed its trainer. And throughout the years, they were recording the behavior of the killer whale. Well, that killer whale was monitored by a satellite weapon, drone, electronic warfare that was viciously attacking and showed signs of lashing out, but they neglected the signs and allowed the trainer to continue on with the world premiere video or world premiere entertainment where the actual killer whale was trained and attacked and was viciously attacked with electronic warfare and wound up lashing out at the trainer at the trainer and wound up killing her. Okay. And I want to talk about that. Okay. It's like us. You're attacking us constantly with these electronic weapons, harassing us, coercing us to commit duress. It's cruelty. And lashing out would be going to commit suicide, going on a rampage shooting like they've done before. Thousands of veterans, Myron May, Aaron Alexis, Santiago Esteban, were all viciously targeted as human beings. And they lashed out by shooting someone, by leaving the state to go and see if they were going to be stopped at an airport, and they wound up shooting someone. Okay. That's the outcome. The outcome is, of course, being electronically harassed and then being isolated and then viciously attacked to commit the suicide or commit the killing. Okay. Today we're talking about animals. Okay. It's electronic warfare. It's a new frontier of war. It's a new era. Okay. It's mind control. Okay. Mind control is the new warfare. And we're going to talk about mind warfare too. Okay. But I want to talk about, and I want to show you some footage of a killer whale that viciously attacked, and they knew that at some point in time this killer whale was going to lash out, okay, because it was electronically harassed. And you can believe me, you don't have to believe me, but I've been analyzing this warfare, this new frontier of war, okay, and it is vicious, okay. It isolates a human being, it isolates an animal, and the last choice to the animal is to lash out or move from room to room to get away from this warfare that's in our neighborhoods, in our amusement parks. And you can believe me, whatever you want to believe me, but I'm telling you right now, this is a new era of war. And not even local law enforcement are aware of this blue collar war. It's a blue collar war. It's war crimes, okay, against Americans. But we're going to pay for this electronic warfare. People are going to lose money, okay? This is a recording from this is about a killer whale at SeaWorld, where the animal was viciously attacked. But I'm going to start with I'm going to start my interview with a Jose Delgado theory. Jose Delgado was a CIA scientist who tamed a bull. Okay. Jose Delgado was a CIA scientist who tamed a bull. Okay. And he had a theory. He had a theory. Who tamed a bull? Here we go.
In the 1960s, Professor Jose Delgado took a normally hostile bull and implanted electrodes into its brain. Electrodes that could be activated by a radio transmitter. His objective was to see if stimulation of the bull's midbrain could short-circuit the rage signals, stopping the bull before it reached the matador. After the bull had recovered from the implantation and in mid-charge, the button was pressed. The bull's aggression ceased instantly, or so it seemed.
Okay, that's part of the study by Jose Delgado. But I want more theory into that. Okay, this war front is about attacking using animals. Jose Delgado was that type of guy, and let's see here. I'm gonna let you hear Jose Delgado.
The tragedy is that when Howard was operated on in 1960, safer and more effective psychiatric treatments were widely available. Nonetheless, Freeman went on performing lobotomies for many more years, only stopping when he was 72. Freeman died not long after he did his last operation. But the idea of using surgery to control behavior was now so seductive that far from dying with him, it gained momentum. During the Cold War, mind control became an active area of research. Brainwashing proved to be a blunt tool, but brain surgery offered a more focused result. In the mid-1960s, a procedure developed by Dr. Jose Delgado took psychosurgery to a whole new level.
I was continue thinking about the brain, about the possibility to do research, about the possibility to go inside, in the depth of the brain.
Rather than cutting things out of the brain, as Walter Freeman had done, Delgado decided the best thing to do was to insert something into the brain. At Yale, Delgado became fascinated by the idea that electrodes implanted in animals' brains could control aggressive behavior. In the summer of 1964, to perform a truly audacious stunt, he chose not a rat, nor a mouse, but a bull.
The owner, he said, well, you can do that with cats and monkeys. You can do that with bulls, can you? I don't know. Let's try. Would you allow me to place electrodes in one of your brave bulls? Sure, do that, no problem. But you will not be able to pacify him. I don't know, maybe not. Let's try.
Dr. Delgado really did intend to stop an animal specially bred to be aggressive in its tracks. This footage shows Dr. Delgado in action.
We anesthetized the animal. There we implanted electrodes in the head. Well, next day, the bull was normal. And the bull was just going around, charging against anybody who could be in the bull ring. It's not completely normal. Then I thought, well, I know a little about bullfighting, so I'm going to test this by myself.
Delgado leapt into the ring with an extremely dangerous animal, armed with nothing but a remote control. He was betting his life that this would work.
The animal was a few feet away. I pushed a button in the radio simulator, and the animal really stopped completely. It was frightening, but it was an experiment. And so, when the experiment was over, the bull was in very good health, and I was in a very good health also. So, no problem.
Jose Delgado was jubilant and saw the success of his experiment as just the beginning.
That took us to another big step. If electrodes implanted in animals are possible, can we implant electrodes in the human brain?
To many people, this vision of brain manipulation was not thrilling. It was downright terrifying. It presented a nightmarish future where anyone who threatened the state could be controlled. Far-fetched? Well, in 1970, researchers from Harvard Medical School suggested using psychosurgery on black rioters, while others suggested putting implants into gay men to turn them straight. Ethical approval proved impossible. Funding for brain implant research fizzled out. But the story of implants wasn't over. Some of the things they talked about doing were utterly...
Okay, so pretty much you can understand this war since the early era of Jose Delgado. There's no longer implants needed. This is a remote neural war that has taken over mind control, and it's been manipulated remotely by devices, electronics in our homes, in our neighborhoods, okay? And I'm going to talk about that later on. But today we're going to talk about the abuse. There was a killer whale that lashed it out on one of his trainers, okay? And wind up killing its owner, okay? Through electronic warfare, okay? And it's like I said, it's a sad situation, but we must face reality that this war front is a new era of war, and that Americans are being assaulted every day in our homes. Okay, they're being assaulted every day in our home front. Okay, it's a war in our neighborhoods, electronic war, and children are being taught how to manipulate this. Okay. It's a sad situation, but like I said, it is happening day to day in our home front here. It's a new era of war, okay? We can't deny that. It is happening today in America. The war front is becoming accurate as time goes on. The weapons are getting precise. It's remotely being accessed by millions of people who are being trained to use these weapons to use against us, okay? And it is not fair and it's cruel that you're teaching kids how to deploy these weapons in the new era front. Okay. But I mean, it could be a game where you go to the SeaWorld park and use these weapons as an experiment to see what happens to the killer whale. And the killer whale eventually will lash out. Okay, that's just common sense. Okay, and that's what happened on several occasions. But like I said, here is the theory of Jose Delgado taming a bull. And you tame a bull by electronic harassment, remotely injecting pain into the person's head, causing the person or animal to lash out. And that's been the case here on several incidents. Okay. I'm going to show you a U.S. diplomat that her dogs are being attacked. Okay. Viciously attacked. And they were viciously attacked, and the dogs were injured severely by this electronic harassment. Okay. Um, Whether we like it or not, the weapons are being deployed in the neighborhoods. Okay. It's an act of war. And this veteran tells us that the dogs are being viciously attacked. Okay. The dogs are being viciously attacked. There's no doubt. It's a story of a veteran who was in an embassy when the animals attacked. And I'm going to show you that here.
Mother and daughter struggled. Laura says their dogs also began acting strangely. Their dogs also began acting. This government now says were targeted health attacks. As mother and daughter struggled, Laura says their dogs also began acting strangely.
They'd be shivering under the bed when we returned to the apartment. They would vomit blood. They didn't want to go back into the apartment after long walks. And they would run down the hallway and stop just where the living room begins and just sit there. And their heads would move simultaneously. We were so scared. We didn't know what could they possibly be looking at.
After 3 months, Laura, unable to tolerate it any longer, headed back to the U.S. 3 weeks later, the State Department medevaced Catherine out of China.
The doctors diagnosed Catherine with traumatic brain.
Okay, so animals are also being viciously attacked in this electronic warfare. Okay, whether we like it or not, they are attacking animals. Okay, it says so. It says so in a couple of articles. This is a Department of the State telegram from 1969. It says, I pointed out that similar energy rays in experimental animals had brought about physiological changes. There it is. There's the evidence, 1959. It's a ray. It's a ray of energy that's being manipulated by certain people that have carte blanche access to America's war chest. Okay. Here is a direct energy weapon attacking a dog that was identified. Okay, using direct energy weapons. Here is a article by Lisa Becker. Lisa Becker is a targeted individual who talks about her dog being viciously attacked, and you can look up her blog. It's called "The Patriotic American is Targeted." And it says here, almost overnight, strange things began to happen. I began getting phone calls where the caller would hang up after about 20 seconds. My home and my businesses were being vandalized. My husband became depressed and had difficulty sleeping along with headaches. The neighbors near my residence and my business began dumping garbage on the property. My husband began an affair with a co-worker, not in character for him. And I had what seemed to be seizures. Our dog began defecating on the carpet. My automobile was vandalized. Okay. These weapons are cruel and unusual. Okay. They attack the nervous system that controls our bowels, that controls our bowel movements in urination. And when a dog is attacked, it doesn't have any coping skills. And so it releases it's going to do what it's going to be done. Okay. But the point I'm trying to make here is that these weapons are being taught to children. Okay. In our neighborhoods to attack the animals as well. Okay. Here's an article by Targeted Individual. It says signs your pet is being mind controlled. Okay. It talks about, this other article talks about, do cell phone towers interfere with homing pigeons? Okay. Like I said, they are attacking animals. Okay. There were several articles about birds that were dying suddenly. Okay. These microwave energy weapons being deployed remotely does interfere with birds flying north or south. Okay. It interferes in that process. Birds fly north and south for a reason, because it's cold weather. Okay. But if the weather's changed by HARP or whatever, microwave energy weapons, they do kind of confuse the birds. They don't know where to fly. So they stay caught up in this atmosphere where, they're lost on how to move. And it does interfere in our atmosphere and environment and culture. Okay. And birds don't know where to go. The weather's changed on them constantly, so they don't know where to go. But some of them are viciously attacked. It says here, a large number of homing pigeons have been disappearing during races, and enthusiasts are suggesting that signals from cell phone towers may be responsible for the birds flying astray. Others point to heightened geomagnetic activity as the cause. When 700 of 900 birds failed to complete a race from western Pennsylvania to suburban Philadelphia last October 5th, the Washington Post on October 8th cited a race organizer suggesting that cell phone towers were to blame. Okay, this is a remote access war. Okay, here is a targeted individual talking about the pet attacking her pet. Okay. Okay, they are attacking animals. Okay, she makes a video here about attacking her pet. Okay, and we're trying to get into that article here, but like I said, this is a remote warfare that's unleashed in our neighborhoods and society. Okay, and people are being targeted, whether we like it or not. Animals are being targeted. Okay, and so with that in mind, we have to start.
Try gummy vitamins from Nature Made.
We have to start analyzing this war, because it is a war. There are attacking Americans. Okay, there are attacking animals, abusing our animals. Animals that don't have a coping mechanism. They're used to being out in the wild. And when you attack an animal, I mean, it lashes out on something nearby, or it hides and runs. Okay. And so that's the case here, is that animals don't know how to cope with that. And so they go and what do? Okay, they lash out at something close by. Okay. See if I can find this video here. See if I can find this video here. Okay, I can't find the video, but you can look her up. She's called Stephanie the Seeker. She's got her videos, but she talks about her pets being attacked. Okay. The point I'm trying to make here, guys, is that animals are being abused. Okay. It talks about the killer whale dismemberment of people at SeaWorld parks. Okay.
Develops a habit of killing. In today's episode, a captive orca develops a habit of killing people who enter its pool. 2 trainers and 1 member of the public are savagely killed by the captive killer whales, with one attack taking place in front of hundreds of people in the audience. Hit that like button and subscribe right now. These are the 3 fatalities performed by Tilikum the orca. Welcome to Final Affliction. Working with animals is always a dangerous job to do. Even the most seemingly harmless animal, such as a dog, could turn around and bite their trainer should they feel threatened or in danger. With how difficult it is to get away from an enraged animal, it is even more difficult to swim away from one, something that Kelty Brine discovered the hard way. We have all probably heard of Sealand, an American theme park in Canada. The park is home to a variety of different marine mammals, including orcas, sea lions, and dolphins, to name a few. All of these animals are expected to put on shows for crowds of people multiple times a day and have personal trainers who teach them all of the tricks they need to know. There has been much controversy over Sealand throughout the years, but the most controversial topic of all centered around one of the park's killer whales, a male called Tilikum. Tilikum had originally lived in the wild with his pod. However, when he was just 2 years old, he was ripped away from his pod off the coast of Iceland. He was transferred to a holding tank at a marine zoo in Iceland, where he spent almost a year caged in a tiny concrete tank. The tank was so small that all Tilikum could do was swim in circles or float still on the surface of the water. The life that he suddenly found himself in was nothing like the one that he had been living in the ocean, with wide open spaces and a family around him. Eventually, in 1984, the whale was transferred to the rundown Sealand of the Pacific, a marine theme park on Vancouver Island. It was here that the young male met 2 older female orcas called Haida 1 and Nootka 4. He was housed with these other whales. However, it wasn't a pleasant stay. In the wild, female orcas are at the top of the social structure in a pod, so with 2 in the same tank, they were always fighting for dominance. This led to Tilikum being attacked by the females whilst held in a tiny 26-foot wide metal pool for 14 hours a day. Things got so bad for the young male that he was eventually separated from the females and put in a medical pool. It turned out that he had developed stomach ulcers from the stress of living with the females. Despite the controversy surrounding the male whale, he was actually described as youthful, energetic, and eager to learn by trainers at the park. One man who worked at the park in the 80s, a biologist called Eric Walters, said that Tilikum was the trainer's favorite. He was the one they all really liked to work with. But that didn't mean much to the whales themselves. Due to behavioral issues with the female orcas, a head trainer from SeaWorld was brought in to help make improvements to the aquarium. The man, Bruce Stevens, is said to have given each trainer a handbook, which warned, if you fail to provide your animals with the excitement they need, you may be certain they will create the excitement themselves. Eric was thrilled at this development, as he thought that it meant that the whales would get better living conditions and would be treated better, but he was sadly mistaken. The biologist once compared Sealand to McDonald's, saying that it was not good for an intelligent animal to simply do the same thing day after day. It wasn't long until Bruce's warning about animals entertaining themselves became true. The orcas had become so bored and angry at their situations that they began attacking anything that got into the water. In May 1989, Eric Walters quit his job at Sealand and wrote a scathing letter to the Canadian Federation of Humane Societies, highlighting the safety concerns he had about the aquarium. He ended his letter with a chilling warning, claiming that sooner or later, someone was going to get seriously hurt. And on February 20th, 19...
Okay, so there you have it. You know, animals are being viciously attacked. I mean, there's no doubt, guys. How can I stress it more? This war is devastating. It is attacking Americans whether we like it or not. Okay. There's going to be a part two to this, but I want to assure you that animals are going to lash out, and they are being viciously attacked by remote. And I want to cite James Giordano, Dr. James Giordano's Mind Control War. Okay, the new military era of war of mind control. Okay, but the problem I'm having is that these weapons are being deployed in our neighborhoods. Okay, it's neighborhood gang stalking. There's neighborhood torture. Okay, they're being deployed in their neighborhoods, and they're even being deployed by children who are being taught how to manipulate these iPads. Okay, and when you have devices on the iPads, it gives a child the teaching of how to manipulate iPads like they were taught in elementary school. It's a new era. Okay, it's a new war front, and they're being taught to use these weapons in their neighborhoods. Okay, devastating, but the kid doesn't know how to write papers anymore. These new kids, all they're doing to do is manipulate these iPads. Okay, they're not going to know how to write a paper, a research paper in college with pencil or pen. They know how to manipulate these things because it's a new era of war crimes. Okay, it's a new era of war, and like I said, the sad thing about it is that you know it is happening in our neighborhoods, and it's being taught to children. Okay, to lash out and to teach them how to manipulate the animals. Here's the evidence of neighborhood gang stalking, and I'm going to end with this in just a minute here. You're going to hear these two people these two women that are complaining about being targeted and tortured in neighborhoods.
The D'Souza family includes two college-educated young women who say scientific instruments prove they are under attack.
The trajectories we've tracked, it's been coming from the neighbors. First, you're skeptical, but we've tracked our health, the temperature in the home. We've had blankets that are supposed to reflect microradiation and radar. They're radar reflective material, and they've burned.
Okay, so but I'm going to end by that. Animals are on the attack with remote neuromonitoring, remote war, electronic harassment. Thank you, and God bless America. Stay tuned for part two.